Hello and welcome everyone to the Valentine's Day party you don't need any invitation to. Come on in and hang out with us at the movie theater lobby. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Leia.
And hello, Leia.
Hello.
Hello and welcome to everyone. On this Valentine's Day, have yourself a solo day or bring a partner or partners. We don't discriminate here. As we like to say, no plans, no date, no problem. We'll keep you company.
Oh, Brandon, hey, that reminds me. You and I don't often have Valentine's Day plans.
Not typically, right?
No,
Yeah.
but you were telling me that you got like a letter in the mail and you were going to tell me about it.
Right. Yes, totally forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. But I'll fill you in. The letter was actually an invite.
Ooh.
I guess I should have told you sooner. Plans and all that, right?
Well, I do like a surprise.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And I'm really bad at surprises.
You are.
Well,
This one fell in your lap, didn't it?
I'm accidentally good at surprises. So the invitation was so intriguing that I RSVP'd kind of right away. Okay. I know I should have asked you first.
I don't have plans.
Okay, great.
It's Valentine's Day.
Perfect. Yeah, I know. We just don't do anything. Okay, so the invite said, let me see if I can do this justice. You're invited to a murder mystery.
Ooh.
There's a pickaxe-wielding murderer on the loose, and it's up to you to help us catch the killer. You may need to follow your heart, emphasis on heart, in finding the clues you need to catch the killer before you become the next victim.
Whoa, I've never been to a murder mystery party.
Right.
I'm so
Sort of
excited.
exciting.
I'm ecstatic. Glad you RSVP'd. Great work. I think you made the right choice.
Heck yeah, I did good for once.
This is going to be the best Valentine's Day ever.
Yeah, and Leia, what's better than a traditional romantic Valentine's Day, whatever, we don't really care about that. But what's better than that?
Well, Brandon, there's nothing better than a horror Valentine's Day.
I know.
So get that plot going so we can kick off this Valentine Day right.
Oh, heck yeah.
Sarah, be my bloody Valentine.
My Bloody Valentine, a horror teen slasher flick released in 1981. The movie starred Paul Kalman as TJ, Neil Affleck as Axel, and Laurie Collier as Sarah.
Thank you, Leia.
Mm-hmm.
I know usually I kind of jump in there, but it's nice to shake things up a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our story opens with two people decked out in full minor gear, breathing masks and all.
Kinky.
I know, right? It's something. Those suits,
it was quite an opening.
They wander through low-lit tunnels and eventually find a quiet little corner all to themselves. One of the miners begins to doff their gear, and a young woman reveals herself. She excitedly shows off her bra and a cute little heart tattoo above her heart. She begins to suggestively stroke the breathing hose connected to the mask of her miner friend. As the excitement builds.
She tries to take it off.
In a way.
She tries to take the mask off, and he's like, no.
Secrets. As the excitement builds and breathing becomes more heavy.
Okay.
It seems as though the tattoo elicits a very particular arousal in the still-garbed miner. Grabbing the young woman firmly at the shoulders, one might expect a passionate embrace. But instead, the young lady is shoved against the wall and a metal protrusion is forcefully shoved through her, piercing her heart twice. Or would it be piercing her two hearts?
Hey, how disgusting you kids are. Have you no respect? That story you're telling, that happened over 40 years ago. It was a weekend of terror. Kids didn't listen to the bartender before me, and you still aren't listening now. Let me tell you a little story and maybe you'll wise up. 40 years ago, on February the 12th, the young miners of Valentine Bluffs were finishing a shift in the mines. Sure, they laughed and celebrated the end of a long work shift in the mines like they were in a fraternity, talking, laughing, goofing off. Afterward, they went to the community center where Miss Mabel and the young women of town were decorating for a Valentine's Day party, which was to be the first one in over 20 years. See, 20 years before that, the town had a Valentine's Day dance. The whole town attended, with the exception of 7 miners, 2 supervisors, and 5 workers. While the mining men were in the tunnels, the supervisors were too impatient to wait for their men to finish safely, and they left without ensuring the methane was properly vented. Well, as the town danced and celebrated, a methane gas explosion occurred, trapping 5 men below tons of rubble. For 6 whole weeks, the town dug through the wreckage to save or recover the men trapped below the town. When finally they broke through, they found only one man had survived. That man was Harry Warden. He was mad with delirium and oxygen starve. He killed his fellow miners to save oxygen and ate their flesh to survive. Harry spent a year in the mental hospital, and when he got out, he came back to Valentine's Bluffs and killed the supervisors responsible for their deadly accident. Thereafter, he warned the town not to have a Valentine's Day party again. He prowled the mines, waiting for anyone to not heed his warning and murder them. Anyway, back to the young miners. Well, they of course caused distraction and goofed around while the women did all the work preparing for the dance. Eventually, the mayor and the sheriff scolded the young men, and the mischievous chaps moved their male festivities to the bar instead. Leaving the town hall, the mayor had received a heart-shaped box with a note. The note read, "From the heart comes a warning filled with bloody good cheer. Remember what happened as the 14th draws near." The mayor opened the box and near passed out. He found a human heart inside, just like the calling card of terror that Harry Warden left 20 years before. In the bar, the bartender, the one who came before me, told the tale of Harry Warden then, just like I'm telling you now. And no one listened. They just dismissed him and sang and drank and cajoled and played their machismo-filled games. Then on Friday the 13th, the sheriff and the mayor canceled all the Valentine's parties and the big Valentine's dance. They even locked the town community center. But undeterred in a show of defiance, the kids of 40 years ago decided to hold their own party deep, deep in the mines. The old bartender warned them again, but still they didn't listen. Now, I'm not going to go into all the gory, blood-filled, horrifyingly violent details about what happened that very next day on the night of February 14th, but heed my warning now. Don't you take Valentine's Day lightly, and don't you go to that party of yours.
Okay. Leia, sorry that I put out that Craigslist ad for a bartender for today's movie theater lobby gathering.
That was something.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you found him on Craigslist, but did you talk to him at all first?
I was kind of in a rush. I should have done a better background check. I know, but
my God,
we're still not making much money on this whole movie theater lobby thing. So we didn't have a lot to spend, and this guy came cheap.
Yeah, would you give him a couple 6-packs and a pack of cigarettes or what?
Pretty much. He also asked for a bucket of popcorn, and I said, sure.
Oh, well, we have that to boot.
Yeah, I figured we could spare that.
You didn't give me Reese's peanut butter cups, though, did you? Okay,
no.
I didn't think so.
No, that's silly. Leia, you're crazy.
I know. Sorry.
Okay, let's all just kind of move over here.
You kids had better listen now. Your trouble's coming out.
Sir, you're good, okay? Good. Take your popcorn.
You want any drinks?
You can drink all the drinks you want outside.
I'll see you kids later, and watch out.
Okay, have a nice day now.
Anyway, let's just ignore this guy and get down to our talk, right?
My God.
So Leia,
I'm never sure what I am.
He's just that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hire him again next year.
Golly.
Boy, oh boy. Okay, let's talk about our cast and crew, right? Let's get back to some normalcy here. Things were getting weird up in the old movie theater lobby. All right, Leia, so where do we want to start with our cast and crew?
Let's start with the director.
So who was our director this time?
George Mihalka.
What do we have to say about George Mihalka?
He's directed 49 movie and TV shows,
yeah,
so that's a lot. Nothing I'm super familiar with, though.
He's got a niche, and he certainly sticks to it.
Bullet to Beijing.
Oh, okay.
That had Michael Caine in it, so that was pretty big.
Yeah.
Straight Line with Mr. T.
Yes.
I pity the fool.
Pity the fool.
He's currently directing the Ominous TV series out of Canada, so he's still pretty prolific.
He is a Canadian filmmaker, for sure.
Doing work.
Yep.
So
he's lived in Canada since the age of 10.
Okay.
And he was born in Hungary, so that's kind of
cool.
Different than our previous directors that we've talked about, right?
Go Canadians. Woo-hoo.
Go Canadians. His first movie ever was a film called Pick Up Summer.
Was it like picking up like a woman named Summer, or was it like pick up Summer?
Kind of one of those teen hijinks movies. It didn't really have as much nudity as you might expect from the title, so that's probably good.
The title made you think there was nudity in there?
Oh, pick up Summer.
Okay, I don't get it.
All right, never mind.
I don't understand, boys. If you guys want us to review that movie, just let us know.
Yeah,
okay, we'll get right on that.
Check out that one.
Yep.
His second movie was My Bloody Valentine, which, Leia, what was this movie rated when it first came out?
It's rated X.
Yeah.
X, not triple X, guys. Back in the day, there was an X rating for really bad, gory.
Yeah, non-pornographic.
Non-pornographic, borderline pornographic movies.
Yeah, like almost let's ban this kind of stuff.
Almost.
But his third movie, also X-rated.
Oh, really?
Apparently with tons of nudity in it.
Oh.
Called Scandal.
Told you, borderline triple X.
Yes.
To not quite.
Scandal. A movie about a bunch of Canadian government workers who needed to make some extra money.
On the side.
For government purposes.
Under the table?
They decided to make a porno.
Oh, it's like, was that one movie, Miri and...
Zach and Miri make a porno.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of like that.
Kind of like that.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Yes, he's made lots of stuff. Most of it not super notable, but...
He's living the dream.
He's
living his
making
dream.
Some fun stuff.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Right.
I mean, going from near porno.
Wasn't porno. Near porno.
Violence to near porno to Mr. T.
He's tasting it all. The little here and there.
Yeah. Little smorgasbord.
Yeah. Let's get on to the writers.
Let's move on from George. Talk about
Stephen A. Miller.
We're going to start with Stephen A. Miller. He's got a lot of TV credits.
Okay.
Didn't find a whole lot on him as far as his personal life, but he's known for contributing to the TV shows such as The Jeffersons, Flo, The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo, for people who remember that show. I at least recall it. I've never actually seen any episodes.
You have to be old to remember that one.
You don't have to be old.
But that helps.
It may help. Archie Bunker's Place.
Okay.
Kind of the spin-off.
A lot of people know Archie Bunker. Yeah.
Airwolf. Simon and Simon, Magnum P.I., and then just a whole bevy of other
My mom watched
TV
Magnum
shows.
P.I. when I was a kid.
Yeah, he's definitely head work. Never really wrote for any of those shows for too long, but he's definitely gotten a few episodes in, kind of peppered here and there.
All right, good for him.
So what about the other writer, John Beard?
What about him?
All right, you're going to ask me the question, what about him? I'm going to tell you about him. My Bloody Valentine was his first writing project.
Okay.
Apparently what happened was Stephen A. Miller had some sort of health issue where he was unable to finish writing My Bloody Valentine. So they got John Beard to come on, to fly on out to Canada and assist in writing the script and story for the film.
Sort of collaboration.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little forced collaboration.
He got into helping out with this. His next writing credit was for a horror movie called Happy Birthday to Me.
I feel like I've heard of that one before.
It's
not a huge prolific one, but it's an 80s one, correct?
It is, absolutely. Or 1980, I think it was.
Oh,
released.
okay, yeah.
So I guess, so maybe it would have been his first writing
It's in the
project.
slasher film
Something like that.
realm.
Yeah, it is definitely in the slasher film
Yeah.
realm, absolutely. He actually went uncredited on the writing of that one.
Writers, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah, they get
a lot of writers get shut down that way.
They do. His next kind of notable writing credit was a film called Baker County, USA. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't.
I have not.
The premise is that it's a bunch of city kids who arrive in sort of a backwoods town and find a preacher who is murdering his wife's lover. And then they are then hunted by this insane redneck preacher.
Interesting.
Yeah, sort of.
That's one I've never heard of in a premise for anything ever.
Yeah, no, pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, elements of that, but never that exact thing. I mean, I've used Velociraptor. That's got a priest in it, but not a redneck and some city kids. And then you got like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre where you got city kids out in the middle of the country.
Deliverance as well.
Yeah. But not with a priest and city kids in the redneck woods.
I mean, at that point, it seems like he's very into writing kind of slasher horror flicks, right? Well, another writing credit to this man's name is a film called North Beach and Rawhide. Never heard of it?
I wouldn't even be able to surmise exactly what kind of a movie that would be.
I had never heard of it, admittedly.
Is it on the beach or is it in the Wild West?
Not on a beach. It is on a ranch.
Oh, okay.
Not in the Wild West as it is modern. It's about a rancher who runs a correctional institute for urban juvenile delinquents.
Oh, okay.
starring William Shatner.
Shut up. For real?
For realsies.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I love me a little William Shatner.
He seems like he was involved in some very interesting writing projects.
Sure.
Unfortunately, that kind of rounds out the majority of his writing projects, as John Beard sadly died really quite young, at the age of 40, I believe it was.
Oh, that is young. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm just getting my life started.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm almost 45.
Yeah. Sadly, the fella is gone, but he leaves quite a portfolio of fun behind him.
Yeah. All right. Well, at least he left some.
More than
I've left.
Yeah, I was just going to say, more than I've done. That kind of rounds out the info I've got on the writers,
Covered
the
the
director. So, of course, that naturally leads us into...
So that leads into our cast.
So who are you going to start with?
Well, we got to start with Paul Kelman.
I think we do.
So when I was looking at all of these actors, to me, he seemed like one of the most interesting fellows.
He was pretty
Such
interesting.
was. He just passed away not long ago. A couple years ago. He played T.J. Hanniger. And he's originally from London. So I remember when you were watching the movie and you said he's the only one trying to do an accent.
Yeah, because in the States, Pennsylvania is very well known for mining, of course. So they never explicitly say where, outside of the town of Valentine Bluffs, what country or city or state or whatever. No. Well, they do say what city, what country or state that this takes place in.
You get it. You get a sense that it's like a small
like a mining town.
Mining town.
Yeah. So I assume Pennsylvania. It may not have been Pennsylvania. It was all filmed in Canada, so likely it was probably set in Canada.
Yeah.
This is the one guy who
had an accent. He had an accent.
Yeah,
he was really trying to put on an accent.
Some sort of linguistic affectation at least.
But I was like, wow, he's the only one trying.
Yeah.
It's because he had to try, because he had an English accent, for like a real English accent. So that made so much more sense after I read that.
It did.
He actually got the part of TJ on accident.
I wish I could just stumble into things like that.
I mean, he was already in this movie called Gas. His co-star, Keith Knight, who we're going to talk about in a minute, because Keith's also in this movie, asked him if he wanted to tag along with him for an audition for this movie.
Oh.
So when he tagged along for this audition, he decided he may as well audition while he's there. So he said, I crashed the audition and got the part of the lead role.
Isn't that something? Lucky.
Yeah. He said it was probably one of the more challenging roles for him because it was a leading role. So everybody was looking to him for advice and support and everybody looks to the lead actor. He's the lead. So everyone was looking to me and I didn't even know what the hell I was doing.
Right.
So he said that was a very challenging role for him. He didn't stay in films for very long.
Yeah, he didn't do a ton.
No, he always had an interest in fashion design and clothing.
Which I thought was really cool.
Which I thought was cool. He said he was struggling with bipolar disorder. He was borderline alcoholic. Decided that he was unhappy doing film.
Yeah.
Especially after My Bloody Valentine. He said that was kind of where I was starting to feel like this wasn't really for me.
Right.
So he actually he said when he was younger, he always had an entrepreneurial flair for life.
That word is something.
It's a really hard one. He wanted to start a clothing line. He said he always did theater set and costume design. So he opened this quote, funky clothing store.
Okay.
He called it Plash, and he opened it with his wife, and he designed his own clothes for it.
Okay.
He said, but he had to give up his acting time because it took a lot of time out of his schedule to do it, a lot of time.
Anytime you're starting up your own business, it's a time sink.
And he wanted it to work.
Yeah, of course.
So instead of half-assing it, he decided to just full-ass it and quit acting.
Nothing like giving a good full ass.
Good, yeah, you got to give it a full ass or else it's just not going to work. So then after the fashion business, he actually went into technology. So when he was done with that venture, he decided technology was the future. And for over 10 years, he said he devoted himself to the virtual reality industry.
When I read about that, I was like, that is awesome.
It's a man who constantly wants to gain knowledge.
Yeah.
Always wanting to learn, a forever learner. And I think that was like his next big thing that he wanted to learn. And you said like even toward the end, he was really getting into what?
Toward the end of his life, he was really, according to those who were closest to him, he was really enthralled with learning about the Templar Knights, the Knights Templar.
Knights Templar.
Which I thought was a pretty interesting topic.
And that's something you could really start down a rabbit hole on, yeah.
All day long. And speaking of learning, he got a BFA from the University of Alberta. So, I mean, he definitely was a man who loved to learn.
A knowledge man.
Yeah.
He said he's always been big on the sci-fi genre. He liked the Twilight series.
Oh, no judgment.
He said something about vamps and werewolves making war and love that appealed to him.
It is a cool concept.
He's kind of a hippie, too.
He did seem very hippie.
Very hippie-y. He said his all-time sci-fi favorites are Alphaville, Star Wars series, Blade Runner, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Matrix. And of course, all of the Star Trek films.
I mean, that all really makes sense when you look at his view on technology and virtual reality and everything else.
Yeah. And then he was asked what his top 5 favorite horror movies were.
Ooh,
and just in case anybody wants to know,
TJ from My Bloody Valentine.
His
What
top
films?
5, this is you're gonna laugh a little bit because this is a direct quote. His top 5 are The Exorcist, The Thing, Silence of the Lambs, Repulsion, and Hellraiser, and The Omen.
So
that's
6.
He had to put that one in there. I think he just was like, but I like that one too.
I do like that The Omen was the 6th ad.
666.
Because, Mark of the Beast.
Yeah, you can still go on the web and you can see pictures of him and all the things he's posted. He is an interesting character. And he was a cool looking dude when he was older, man.
He had a pretty active Instagram.
Yeah. Very
page.
active. And he loved his fans, kind-hearted.
He also really loved nature and wildlife.
Animals, yep.
According to those close to him, again, he was often found just hanging out on his porch, his deck, just watching and interacting with the animals all around.
He was like a Disney princess.
Yeah, exactly right.
Raccoons came to him, the squirrels.
Helped him make fashion and everything.
Yeah.
Just like Cinderella,
just
right?
like Cinderella.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
It. Let's move on from Paul Kelman and talk about
Neil Affleck.
Neil Affleck. When I first read his name,
Affleck.
I
That's what I thought.
exactly of that. But it's hard not to.
Yeah.
Oh,
I keep wanting to say Ben Affleck, though.
Right, yeah.
And I'm just, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they're related.
No.
I didn't find anything that
I didn't
showed
find
them as
anything either.
related.
He's been in like 30 other films I'm not familiar with.
There's 2 other people in this film that were probably more prolific than him, but he's definitely among the top most prolific of everyone in this movie.
More so than the movies he's been in. I think I know more of the animated stuff he's done.
Oh yeah. He was in a lot of contributed
far.
to a lot of. He was an animator for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, his contributions as an animator are insane.
Yeah, and some of them are real popular too. So he's directed 2 episodes of Family Guy, 7 episodes of The Simpsons. He was an animation timer for Rocko's Modern Life, The Critic, King of the Hill, The Rugrats.
Yeah.
He was a storyboard animator and timer for The Simpsons. Timing director for Rescue Heroes, the movie. And the only reason I bring that up is because Keith Knight did a voice for Rescue Heroes, the TV show. It was 2 years apart, so they didn't work together.
Okay.
But they were both kind of involved in the same type of project. Yeah. Recently, he was an animator for the Magic School Bus Rides Again in 2017.
Ooh, now there we go.
Yeah.
Bringing that Magic School Bus
So still
back.
doing stuff.
Who doesn't love the Magic School Bus?
Yeah.
Maybe
I can think of some people.
He also, aside from all of his animation stuff, he had a small cameo in the movie Scanners.
Oh, he did.
Mm-hmm. Real briefly, it was kind of like, it was one of his first credits. He was also in the movie called Visiting Hours. And then he had a lot of other really small kind of walk-on parts in other various horror movies and a lot of roles as law enforcement, policemen and such. So
some people just have the face for it,
you just get kind of stuck in that sort of deal. Yeah. No escaping. He's also a fairly good musician / songwriter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was a member in good standing, as I had found, of the Canadian folk band Banjo Go Boom.
Why would you say in good standing?
I don't know. That's what the interviews and
it's weird.
Internet
It's a weird
tells me.
thing. It's a weird thing to say.
He's a member in good standing. Don't take that away from him.
So is there some members that aren't?
I should hope not.
Okay.
Banjo Go Boom. One word, exclamation point.
Did you listen to any of it?
So I listened to just a little bit.
Yeah.
I found a video with Neil Affleck playing harmonica.
Oh, interesting.
Along with Banjo Go Boom, which, as you say, is interesting because Leia.
Yeah.
Tell me why it's interesting.
Because there's a scene where he's playing harmonica with Paul Kelman.
Yes. In the movie My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah, and actually, you know what's funny is in Paul Kelman was asked if he played harmonica, and he said he did, but in the film they put song
they
over, dubbed over it. Yes,
of course. All right. So we got a little bit of an Andy McDowell-ish Greystoke kind of situation going on here.
Yes.
Here's just a small snippet of Neil Affleck playing harmonica on a song called "I'd Be Fool."
Okay.
Yeah. So the man can play.
Yeah.
He's got...
I think it's cool that he's done film, he's done animation, he's a musician. Guy's an artist.
He's definitely got talents.
Yeah.
Don't take it away from that guy. Leia, anything else on the multi-talented Neil Affleck?
Nope, I think let's move on to Lori Hollier.
Yes, let's please do, because once again, we're getting way too much male in here. So
Get a little feminine persuasion here.
She played Sarah in this movie, right?
She's done a lot.
She has.
Yeah.
I'd say...
a lot of these people have. It's more than I thought. But she's done a lot of stuff I actually know about.
Yeah, I would say she is probably of the bunch. She's the most well-known out of this movie.
I wouldn't say I would have known her had I not researched her.
Sure.
In looking at some of the stuff she's done, I was like, oh, I've seen that. I've seen that.
Yep,
you know, I know what that movie is. I know what that is.
Yeah.
So I've probably sseen her. I just didn't recognize her.
Yeah.
You know.
She's definitely been in things we've seen.
She was in the 1986 movie Blindside with Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was kind of big.
Well, he is very prolific. He definitely has
He's
a name.
big for me. I mean, like, that's huge for me.
Oh, yeah.
I know who that is.
Yeah.
She was in Days of Our Lives.
Of course, yeah.
I did a stint back in like my early college years where I watched a lot of daytime soap operas.
Okay, all right.
So I probably saw her in that.
Did you watch any of the 48 episodes that she was in?
I don't know, maybe.
Maybe, possibly.
That's a lot of episodes.
Isn't that a pretty good
It's a pretty
run?
big stint.
I wonder if her character was killed off or had a twin that showed up or fell into a coma.
I don't know. Probably one of those things. She was in The Twilight Zone, which I love. In 2017, she portrayed Alice in the Netflix comedy film Christmas Inheritance.
Okay.
Opposite Eliza Taylor, Jake Lacey, and Andie MacDowell.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's
bringing
Andie
that woman
MacDowell
back,
with
man.
2 mentions in one episode.
Yeah. Never thought that would happen.
Right? No kidding.
I don't ever think about her, but now I'm
she's
thinking about her all the
everywhere.
time.
That's all you think about.
That's all I think about.
She was also in the disaster movie Night of the Twisters.
Night of the Twisters.
Yes.
Who
And
could
then-
forget?
Not super memorable, but it is exactly what you'd expect it to be.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a lot of other small roles, one-shot roles on a bunch of
Did a lot of
TV
TV
shows. Yeah.
one-offs.
Yeah. Another Canadian actor. She was...
Me and their E.
She studied theater at the University of Victoria, and then she finished her education with the National Theatre School in Montreal.
Okay. She's got her credits.
Yeah,
to her.
she knows what she's doing.
Yeah. So should we move on to, I want to talk a little bit about Keith Knight. He's not like he's one of the stars of the movie, of course, but he isn't like the top 2 stars or 3 stars even. He was in the 1981 film Gas. He appeared alongside Howie Mandel and Donald Sutherland in that movie. He's appeared in more than 160 television commercials.
Yeah, there we go. He's got the face for it.
He played Fink in Meatballs.
All right, okay.
So he was in Meatballs.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Which is a big film. He's also done a slew of cartoon voice work, including 27 episodes of The Care Bears.
Oh, yeah. There we are.
And he did a voice in the Beetlejuice cartoon from 1990. So he's done a lot of cartoon voice work as well. He ended up dying relatively young too. He had brain cancer. He was in his 50s maybe.
He did have some pretty rockin' mustache.
He did. His mustache work was on point.
His mustache work.
He was funny.
Yeah, he
in
was.
that movie, My Bloody Valentine. He was really funny. And when you first look at him, I'm like, oh, he's going to be the dorky one who's kind of stupid.
Right.
No, he's the clever, funny guy.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Almost
it's perfect.
Almost the logical one.
Almost the logical one, except then he does.
Then there's stupid things.
Does the stupid thing where he takes everybody down into the mine. So that's all I have on Keith Knight. I just wanted to bring him up because I think he's integral to
definitely
the
worth the
movie.
mention.
Yeah. The last one I want to talk about is Cynthia Dale, and she plays Lori Hollier's character's Sarah. She plays her best friend.
Yes, yeah.
In the movie. She actually was in a TV show called Seeing Things in 1987 with co-star Lori Hollier. Both were also in the TV show War of the Worlds from 1990.
So almost the 2 Corys.
Yeah, almost. Not quite.
Not quite.
She was also in the movie Moonstruck.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yep.
With
So
Cher, right?
With Cher. So, she's got her credits behind her too.
All right, yeah. I actually really liked her character
I did
in
too.
this movie.
Yeah.
Every time
she was a good actress in this movie. Yeah.
Every time I think of this movie, I think about her one quote. You got to come to the Valentine's Day dance. You got to see my dress. I got to cut down to here and slit up to here. I don't know if I'll survive the night.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if I'll make it out alive.
I don't know if you'll make it out alive.
Oh, but you gotta go. It'll be all right. Just stay with Hollis and me. Besides, you gotta see the dress I got. Cut down to here, slit up to there. I may not get out alive.
And then you see her and you're like, I thought she said she was going to have a low-cut
Yeah, what
dress.
happened to that dress?
Yeah, and it was what she explained. It's just the 80s.
Yeah.
So
Just the 80s sort of low cut.
it was the 80s low-cut and up to here.
Yep.
Not Jessica Rabbit,
Yeah,
90s.
not that kind of a dress.
No. That's what I was thinking
what I
when
was
she was
thinking,
talking
too.
about it, yeah. So let's move on to some of the acclaim for the movie, shall
Let's
we?
do.
I don't have legs for this one.
Yeah. I think
There
it
was no information on how much this film made on the opening weekend.
It was pre-legs.
It was pre-legs, pre-opening weekend sales information,
Yeah,
I guess.
I
I
guess
don't
it
know. I couldn't
was-
find it. It wasn't on my regular websites. The domestic box office amount was listed on there.
Okay.
It was $5,672,000. Their production budget was $2.3 million.
Yeah.
So they did,
Came out
Okay.
ahead, sure.
but not as well as they were kind of hoping that they were going to do, particularly because they were trying to kind of compete with some of the
Yeah,
slasher
the
films of
other
the time
slasher
that were doing
films.
so well. So didn't do as well as they had hoped.
Yeah.
And it didn't really get any awards or nominations because it was really just considered a typical slasher film.
Yeah. The reviews in general were fairly average, but kind of trended a bit more toward the poor side. The reviewers of the time often commented a lot about how this film was too violent and there was too much gore.
Mhm.
It's just unacceptable for
Which is
today's
crazy
society.
because they cut a whole bunch of
Yeah,
it out.
A lot. Like if you were to stack it up to today's horror movies,
Oh, doesn't even come close.
woo, this one's pretty tame.
This is pretty tame. And we watched the uncut version.
We did.
And that still didn't seem like it was that bad. This movie had a little bit of inspiration.
Okay.
So let's move on to the inspiration segment of
let's
this.
get into that little inspi.
So the movie was stylistically patterned after the European giallo films of the 1970s.
Mhm.
Trademarks include presenting the murders from the point of view of the killer, emphasis on gore or brutality, and the killer is seen as wearing black gloves typically.
Right,
So
yeah.
those are kind of the patterns for those types
Yeah.
of movies. The film's origin came about because they were trying to find like a holiday slasher film that
Yeah.
wasn't like a Halloween movie, something different.
Mother's Day, Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that were already taken.
Yeah, so they were trying to kind of hop on that slasher flick boom of the early 1980s. They settled on Valentine's Day in order to keep the idea from being copied. They made the film's working title The Secret.
Yeah. Which you look at that and you think hey, wait a minute.
Yeah. They actually had the release title in mind for the whole
Yeah.
time, but they kept it. They didn't
The
want anybody.
Secret.
Yeah, it's just The Secret.
They didn't want anybody stepping on their toes for old Valentine's
For old
Day.
Valentine's Day. That's ours. We're going
Yeah.
to take that one. Some of the films that kind of they used to stylize after was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Carnival of Blood, Friday the 13th.
They found some good inspiration. A lot of big feat already came before them, even though it was just barely before them.
It was. Some of them were like within the same year,
Yeah.
even. So that's all I have on inspiration.
Obviously, this was an early slasher flick.
Yeah.
So inspiration probably would have been pretty light,
Yeah.
but pretty apparent.
I mean, the big
regardless.
inspiration's Valentine's Day if
Well,
it wasn't
of
clear.
course.
So.
Yeah, the holiday so known for gore and blood.
Yes. Well, it is now.
Just a few things I thought were kind of silly or cute about the in-world situation.
Okay.
It's set in the town of Valentine Bluffs. They're really just showing you everything right on the face.
Yeah.
I think it was mentioned one time in the movie. The local radio station is QPID. Cupid. I thought that was, we're
Okay, we
really
get it.
putting it out there.
We get it.
Valentine's Day is what we're
Yes.
talking about, right? The one other thing that I had to say is, obviously you heard the old bartender talk about how Harry Warden, after he had gotten out of the mental hospital, came back to town and murdered the supervisors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he murdered them supervisor.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we
Thank
heard you,
mister.
dude. My God. I thought he left.
He sneaks back in. He's been in and out eating popcorn.
Oh.
So yeah, he comes back to town, murders the supervisors, and nobody locks him up after that because the lore continues in that he sends a warning to the town not to hold any more Valentine's Day parties. And every year on Valentine's Day, he comes back to town and with a bloody pickaxe patrols the mines waiting for anybody to break his proclamation.
We're not calling the
warning.
FBI because we can handle this ourselves, guys.
Yeah. Why did nobody do anything about this
We
guy?
got this.
They
Okay.
just let a maniac who
We just won't have a Valentine's Day party.
he killed 2 people already and 4 other people to survive in the mines, and they still let him just come back each year
Yeah, well, I mean, why not? You
and
know?
hold the town terroristically hostage?
Traditions, you know what I'm
I
saying?
guess. So anyway, I just thought that was a little bit suspect.
Yeah, it's a movie.
I guess. There's Brandon shitting on movie lore again.
So the film was shot on location in only 6 weeks. They probably had other shoots elsewhere, but on location, it was only 6 weeks. Paul Kalman was actually asked, what his stay was like while he was there, because, it's a small town, like a small mining town. He said that they put him up at the Holiday Inn in Sydney, Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
Christiane, his wife at the time, and him had a suite with a weight room and a conference/party room. They went shopping. They ate at a few restaurants.
Big timing.
He said it had a car in his contract, so they did some driving around. They took the ferry to Newfoundland. While in international waters, he said he played slot machines for the first time.
Oh, my goodness.
And he won over $100 in a flood of coins.
Oh, boy, I can only imagine how many pennies popped out of that thing.
He said mostly we did a lot of drinking with a lot of the people on the island.
I can see that.
And he said Keith and I loved Bushmills Scotch whiskey. That's what they drank.
That's good for them. I'm glad somebody drank that.
So Kalman was asked if there were any reshoots that had to be done. He said he told a funny story about the reason for one of these reshoots. And it's in the bar scene. Remember the bar scene where they're all kind of like hanging out and Keith is at the
oh, yeah. How could I forget?
Yeah. The little sliding game.
We have a living memory right over there.
In the bar scene, Happy is the bartender. Mm-hmm. And he's telling the story of Harry Warden and Valentine's Day murders.
It's a bad time, this time of year. There's bad things coming. My words you hear.
And that whole thing had to be reshot because no one had noticed that Kalman had actually gained weight. So he originally shot the scene near the end of the shoot, but chronologically it was supposed to be in the early part of the story when he was thinner. So suddenly, from one scene to another, he said he had a belly. So the producers saw the belly. It must have been big enough where they were like, oh, that can't happen.
A little too much liquor.
So they saw the belly and they said they had to fix it. So they built a copy of the set and reshot it with no below the waist shots for continuity purposes.
Oh, man.
He said he thinks he gained like 20 pounds from all the beer that he drank.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a lot of beer.
But I think it's funny that he had to reshoot that because he had a beer gut.
Living life, man. No reason not to indulge, I guess.
I guess. He was indulging for sure.
Well, I think it's funny, too, how you said it was 6 weeks worth of shooting, right?
Yeah.
It probably would have been a lot less had the amount of time that they had to spend in that mine shaft elevator going up and down.
How long did it take?
15 to 20 minutes each way.
Each way.
And you can only hold 20 people on the elevator at once. And when they would break for, like, say, lunch, right? An hour lunch.
Yeah.
George Mihalko would say it would sometimes take 3 hours because you'd have to get all the crew out and up through the elevator, take 20 minutes, and you can't start counting their lunch while they're on the elevator. So you got to wait till they're all up and then back down again. Oh,
so
man.
If you guys don't know, this film was shot in Princess Colliery Mines in Sydney Mines, Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
It was shot 2,700 feet or 820 meters underground. Due to the methane levels underground, the lighting actually had to be even carefully planned because they can only have a limited amount of light bulbs set up, or else it would have, just like in the movie, would have blown up.
Yep. Yeah.
So they had to be careful with all the lighting that was down there too.
The tasty irony.
Yeah, right. Prior to production, actually, the owners of the mine cleaned the mine up.
Yes.
They cleaned it up.
They spent their own money to clean up the set.
They cleaned it up so clean that it was like a Disney-like set. And when they got there, they were like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
So they spent tens of thousands of dollars to re-dirty it.
Yes.
To make it gross again, so it looked like a working mine, because it didn't look like a working mine anymore.
The production staff and location scouts specifically chose this mine.
Because it was old,
disused, dirty mine.
And they cleaned it without their prior consent.
Which I understand what they're trying to do.
Sure.
They're trying to show off their town.
Be proud of it.
But that was the whole point, man.
Yeah, producer Dunning referred to the shoot as horrendous.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's funny because the mines, they were an active mine for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And the town, they were kind of wondering deciding if they should shut the mines down or keep them open, what they should do with them, because there was a variety of economic concerns, environmental concerns. Yep. They were like, oh, hey, we're getting a little cash injection because of this movie. That's great. And they really
thought this was going to be a boom for the set, for the city or for the town. It wasn't even a city, it was a town.
The little locality.
Wasn't. No. But they were really hoping.
I can see why they'd hope.
Kind of sad they spent all that money to clean the mine because they didn't really see that back.
Nope. Oh, and because they were shooting in those mines, which were actual working mines, as we mentioned before, because they had no full script. In fact, when shooting started, they had one written page.
What?
So when John
You
Beard...
You were kidding when John Beard said he had to come in and help read and write it. Yeah.
With that limited amount of writing done, George Mihalka and John Beard would often walk the location to find inspiration to add to the script. George would say, well, we'd walk through these showers that were there. And the showers didn't have shower heads on them. They were just exposed brass pipes that would sometimes be awkwardly cut or snipped at the end, leaving sharp protrusions.
Nice.
And he was like, oh, we could have someone's face get impaled on that. Or we'd walk through the cantina and we'd see these large cooking pots because, of course, they'd be just cooking bulk for all these miners. And say, oh, we can have somebody's face get, boiled to death in this large...
Genius, honestly, because you don't have to come up with that yourself and think, is that going to be realistic? You can be like, that's actually something that could happen. Yeah, it's something
right on set. We can make use of it. It would make sense to happen here.
So that actually brings me to a conclusion I just had just now. They didn't let any of the cast know who the actual killer was going to be. Yeah. I was getting the impression they didn't want them to know so that, it
could be anybody.
It could be anybody. But now I'm starting to get the impression that they didn't let them know because they actually didn't know themselves.
Okay, you know what? You're probably not wrong.
Right? I don't think they knew themselves who the killer was.
Yeah.
And they came up with it at the end.
That might be. That's a good conclusion.
Thank you.
To be honest, we didn't find anything to give to certify that. That is Leia's presumption.
That is just my presumption.
But
I think it's a good presumption.
It sounds pretty sound to me.
So the caption near the beginning states that this is Thursday, February 12th, indicating the dance will be on Saturday the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
That also means Friday the 13th falls in between them.
And I tell you, Friday the 13th is not a good day. I'm trying to warn you, kids.
The Friday the 13th 1980s series was released by Paramount, and the plot of My Bloody Valentine 1981 is similar to the Friday the 13th 1980 film.
Right in between everything.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
We've talked about Quentin Tarantino before. I read that this is actually one of his favorite slasher films of all time.
Yeah.
Which I think it's cool.
I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. He had said that it's one of those things where in his later years, he'd come to appreciate the movie more.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do, honestly.
And for a long time, it may not have been in his top, but has slowly risen its way up like a mine shaft elevator.
Yeah.
Slowly to the top.
All right. I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
We had talked earlier about how this was originally rated X.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wanted to try to keep it at an R rating.
Right.
So they had to have the MPAA kind of come in, and they just murdered. They slashed this film.
They did indeed.
Dunning said that the film was essentially cut to ribbons in order to receive an R rating. Even after the film met the requirements that the MPAA put towards it, it was again returned with an X rating.
Right.
So then they had to cut it more.
Even more.
And then the uncut version was released by Lionsgate in 2009, but only 3 minutes of the excised footage was reinstated. And there's a lot of speculation that more than 3 minutes was excised from there. So we still may have some footage that we've still not seen to this day.
I think I had read that there was rumor of up to 9 minutes worth.
Yeah, and that's a lot. Mihalka had said that, quote, we have 80% of the image back and 95% of the impact back.
Right.
So not 100%, but we got some of it
I
back.
wish we could have seen what's missing.
I know, right?
Speaking of stuff that would have had to been cut because obviously probably too gory, right? Or too vicious. Well, there was a long-standing rumor that the special effects master for this film, his name was Thomas R. Berman. There was a long-standing rumor that went along with this movie that some of his special effects were so gory and so intense that director George Mihalka had thrown up because of them. However, there was an interview with George Mihalka and it was brought up to him that, they said, hey, what was it that had made you throw up?
He's like, I didn't throw up.
He said, no, it was a rumor. He said, I never wanted to correct the rumor though, because it felt like such a big compliment to Thomas R. Berman's work.
Yeah.
that it would have made me throw up, that I never wanted to correct it because I wanted the man to have his props for the work he did.
That's awesome.
Which is super cool. And he said the rumor might have come out of a point where he saw some of the special effects and he did make a fake retching sound.
Oh, because
so that may have,
gross.
So that may have led to the rumor, but he said it is unfortunately not true, but still props to Thomas R. Berman for his awesome effects.
That's cool. Some of the backlash that came from this film in terms of like why they cut so much of it was due to the releasing of Friday the 13th the previous year. And also there was some speculation that the murder of John Lennon had something to do with it.
That time.
There's no connection really other than the fact that he was murdered. I mean, you could say that about any murder movie.
Right.
The end of the film, there's a song that plays at the end of the film.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember saying, they must have made this song for the movie.
Kind of a really well done song.
Yeah, it's really good. And you're like, oh, well, we'll see who did it at the end. And of course, at the end,
it's uncredited.
And I'm like, hell. So while I was doing research for this film, I found out that it was written for this film.
Yeah, explicitly for this.
Explicitly for this film.
The Ballad of Harry Warden, right?
The Ballad of Harry Warden, yeah. And it was not credited in the film. The Ballad of Harry Warden, as well as other music cues heard in the film, were provided by Scottish-Canadian tenor John McDermott. And then in an interview with Ghouls in the House podcast, his first and only interview on the subject, McDermott explained that he was a family friend of the film's composer, Paul Zaza. And just out of school, he was offered the opportunity to record the vocals for the film. So that was kind of one of his big, like, breakout, like, being able to get involved in the film industry. McDermott's best known for his renderings of the song Danny Boy and Loch Lomond. Paul Zaza spoke out about wanting to create a different kind of musical motif for each of the individual murders in the movie and make music that has like a dripping damp sound to the mind setting itself. Sure. So he really had all these visions for this movie in terms of like what he wanted for the music of the movie.
And that's a sign of a great composer.
Yeah. It turned out they did not have enough funding to do all the music he wanted to do. So they ended up just using the Ballad of Harry Warden instead of all of the other stuff that he wanted to use for the film. But most of the soundtrack for My Bloody Valentine was never commercially released. So you can't just buy the song. You got to find a copy of it that was recorded from the movie in order to listen to it. It's really good, though.
It is a good song.
Very well composed.
They were hoping to have a charting music hit from this song.
Yes.
But like you said, just didn't come true.
It's going to be my new Valentine's Day hit.
There you go.
Every year. There was an IMDb article that I read from May 24th of last year that stated that Blumhouse was in the works to reimagine several horror classics from the Lionsgate Library, including The Blair Witch Project and My Bloody Valentine. I'm super excited.
I think that's pretty cool.
Blumhouse they are so good at everything they do.
I would be happy to see a remake of this one, which was not the 2009
That
version.
one was okay, but I feel like they could do better.
Do you have anything else that you want to talk about? Otherwise, I can mention a few things
Let's talk about
2009
the remake
version.
a little bit because there wasn't a lot on that one, and we didn't have a lot on this one either. So let's
We're
check that
toss it in there.
Let's throw the kitchen sink in.
So along with the kitchen sink, I'm going to say one last thing about this movie, just because I thought it was goofy.
Yes.
In Singapore, on this film's VHS release, they cut it down to PG.
In Singapore?
Yes.
Those heathens.
Okay. So there we are. On to the...
They are brutal in Singapore.
Boy, they cut. So 2000...
so they cut it back so much that they made it PG?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant like they were okay with all the brutality. So they're like, it's just PG. It's not rated R.
No, they didn't give it a PG-13
So it was like
PG
a Disney
rating.
film.
They cut it back to a PG rating.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yikes.
Oh.
I don't know that I want to see that edition.
Heathens nonetheless.
Heathens in a different way.
Yeah.
So, okay, 2009 version of My Bloody Valentine. Yes. I'm only going to mention a few stars, not really even all of the main stars of this one. Jensen Ackles is going to be our big star. So
I love
Supernatural, right?
He's
Everybody knows
cool.
that guy.
Yeah.
Of course, he was also in Dark Angel, Dawson's Creek, Smallville, a few episodes on that. Supernatural for the whole damned run. He also did a stint in a few Batman animated films, and he was also in the video game The Third Birthday, which is a sequel to the Parasite Eve games on the PSP.
Big convention guy, too. He goes to all the conventions.
A lot of conventions, of course.
Yeah.
And, of course, in The Boys.
The Boys.
Recently.
Yeah.
But he played TJ equivalent in this movie.
Yes.
I don't remember what his full character's
Hennigan?
name was. Tony or something, right?
Oh, the full name of, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't call him TJ in this one, but
No.
that's who he was.
That's who he was.
Then you also had Jamie King, who was kind of the second star of this movie, even more so than Axel. She was more prominent in this iteration.
Mhm.
Sarah was...
She was kind of the heroine,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah, she really kind of
Yeah.
was. So Sarah was played by Jamie King. Jamie King is known for her roles in Blow, Pearl Harbor.
She's adorable.
She is super adorable.
I love her.
Sin City.
Yeah.
She also had roles in Mother's Day, Silent Night, the Netflix series Black Summer. She's definitely been around. She's fairly prolific.
Yeah.
Two other people I'm going to mention. One of them has a very small role in this, but the amount of trivia for this film, not huge, but it really centers mostly around her,
Okay.
oddly enough.
Yeah.
So Betsy Rue.
Okay.
For two reasons I'm going to mention her. One, because like I said, the trivia, a lot of it relates to her. But two, Leia, we needed a CSI and an NCIS appearance, and she's got them.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, because we
Right.
need that. We need that.
And the other person I'm going to mention is Todd Farmer. He's the writer.
He's the writer.
the writer
Okay.
of this movie. He plays the trucker who was having sex with Betsy Rue's character.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
hmm And he also appeared and wrote for the movie Drive Angry, which we mentioned previously
Right.
with
Groundhog's Day. Don't drive angry.
Don't Drive Angry. And he also appeared with Tom Atkins, who played the sheriff. They both appeared in Drive Angry together.
Okay.
So kind of a little
Well,
weird little
roundabout.
connection there. But the only, there's little bits of trivia here and there about this movie. Nothing that's really going to stand out to you.
Yeah. And all comes back to the
It all-
81 version.
It does. But the little bit of trivia I can find here relates to Betsy Rue. Everywhere I look, the articles, every
She was
trivia
the one who was like
website,
naked in like the whole
she
film.
spent her entire role was spent naked.
Yeah.
So she played Irene.
Yeah.
I don't know if her name was even mentioned in the film, but that's her character's name. She was a woman having sex with the trucker, played by Tom Farmer, who was the writer. A lot of people also often jokingly mocked Todd Farmer, and he was a good sport about it. But they said that since he was the writer, he wrote the scene explicitly to be naked with her.
Of course.
In fact, in the credits, there's an explicit call out thank you to Todd Farmer's wife for letting him be naked in this movie.
Oh my
So,
God.
the initial script called for way less nudity. And in fact, Betsy Rue's Irene was supposed to go running out of the hotel room and chase.
A robe or something.
Just put her sheets around her,
Okay.
basically. They kind of reshot that scene. And Betsy Rue was finally like, hey, look, I'm not liking this whole wrapping a sheet around me thing.
Every
She goes,
single time.
if it was real life, she goes, I would have been so pissed at this guy because, okay, so the basic idea is they're having sex and Todd Farmer's trucker is recording it. So he takes the cassette and he's running out of the hotel room. She's chasing after him because she wants that cassette back.
Yeah. And he gives her money for it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't want money for
So-
it. I want the movie back.
She's like, in real life, she goes, I wouldn't bother putting a sheet around me. I go chasing that guy naked to get that tape back. So that's what she does in the scene. So it was her idea to add all that extra nudity into the
Okay,
film.
just so we're clear. It was
Yeah,
not
so
the writer.
It was
who
not the
did
writer.
that. He may have written them having sex.
Yeah.
Though.
So,
So.
it was her ideas to, as she quoted, go balls to the walls on
All
this
right.
one. So,
Got big balls into it.
yeah.
Man. All right.
So there we are, folks. That's what I found interesting.
That
about
was
the
it?
2009 version.
That was the trivia.
That was it.
All right.
So, Leia, just real briefly before we kind of wrap things up,
yeah.
did you have any personal thoughts about the changes and the differences between the original and the 2009 version?
The only thought I had on the changes
Mhm.
between the two was that the newer version seemed to be almost like a melding of a remake and a sequel.
Yeah.
It's not really a sequel,
No.
but it's really not an entire remake either
it is a little bit different.
because Axel, is it Axel
Axel
and
is the
Sarah
sheriff. Yeah.
end up getting married
Yeah.
and they have a kid together. And Axel's, sorry if I'm spoiling it for you.
We have to put the spoiler warning so late into this episode.
Harry Warden, he's here! Everybody get the fuck out! Go! Go!
And it ends up being TJ instead.
Right.
So it's kind of nice because you go into it thinking you're going to be watching a remake and then you're like, oh shit, they like pulled the wool over my eyes and they put a twist on it, their own twist on it. I think that was what I found most interesting about the remake.
It is labeled as the remake.
It is.
But it does have, there were elements of a written sequel, and a lot of those elements were incorporated into this remake.
And Sarah ends up having a much bigger role in this film.
She does.
Than she did in the first one. She was more, in the first one, she was more of the, rescue me, damsel in distress,
Yeah, she was kind of final girl in the original one, but she was more, like you said, more damsel-y.
But she was rescued, whereas in the new one, she was...
she was
more final girl.
Yeah, she was definitely more final girly. The 2009 version, much more bloody, much more gory, a much larger kill count in the new one.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you can get away with it with an R rating these days.
Yeah, you sure can.
Back then, 2009, than you could in 1981. Clearly,
the opening of the film starts with an absolute massacre.
It does. And you're like, wait, I was watching it and I'm like, what is this, a 20-minute long film?
Right, yeah. No, we just started at the end.
Because it was like all the murders happened. And I was like, what is happening now?
There we go. Here you go. With some blood and special effects.
So if you want to get right into a horror movie, this is the movie for you.
The film opens with a guy in a hospital bed. And it's supposed to be Harry Warden, right? He's supposed to be in a coma. And he just one day wakes up, gets up out of bed like it's no damn problem.
Like it's nothing.
He was just walking around yesterday.
No one's got him chained to a bed or anything.
And he just all of a sudden slaughters the hell out of everybody. So, absolute bloodbath.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking he would not get up out of bed that
Atrophy
easy.
is what you said. He'd be so atrophied right now.
His muscles would be so atrophy. Or his muscles would be suffering from such atrophy, it would not even be funny. There we go.
That's it.
That's all we really need to talk about.
All right, well, good, because we have a murder mystery party to get to.
Gosh, you're right.
It's getting late. It's actually, we have just a little bit of time left to get all of our, I want to get that dress on with the low cut down to here and the slit up to there.
I got an outfit at home.
You do?
That I was going to wear. I was thinking something in a sexy minor type.
You going to put a mask on?
Well, of course. I mean, do you think sexy variants on outfits are acceptable outside of Halloween? Is that a thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, especially at a murder mystery party.
Well, no, of course. And
you got to go as a character, right?
Hence the mask.
Yeah.
If I'm fortunate enough to be selected as the murderer, no one's going to know.
No one's going to know.
I'm going to have that wrapped up. Before we send everyone off, please check us out at themovietheaterlobby.com. Send us emails at, what's the email address, Leia?
themovietheaterlobby@gmail.com.
Perfect. And then check out the socials at The Movie Lobby on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Oh, and the Movie Theater Lobby on YouTube as well. Mm-hmm. We've been putting up little short videos, just a few so far here, kind of sporadically. We're working on making that more regular on YouTube. We're going to find our way to other media sites as well. We're doing kind of some daily trivia, whether it's videos or texts on a lot of our little
every day we're trying to post at least a little something. Yeah.
So, and then of course, please, wherever you're listening to us, please subscribe, of course, rate, review. Yep. I don't think we've gotten any ratings and reviews yet, but, we could use some. Go ahead. Don't be shy. We're not going to be mad about it.
Rip us apart if you want. No. I mean, I would rather you not.
I'd rather not. But and then, of course, find me if you really want to at Brand MC on Blue Sky. Leia, where can people find you these days?
It's so easy to find me. You can find me at LM Nerd Room at all of the previously mentioned socials and at lmnerdroom@gmail.com.
Right.
Simple.
Great. Yeah. I love simple. Simple and easy. Well, Leia, since we're at episode 15 now, and who the hell would have ever thought we made it to episode 15, I do want to make just a quick little mention because we've had a lot of people who have been very supportive to us on social media.
Very supportive. Thank you.
I just want to give a quick little shout out to a few of them. I know I'm going to miss some people because I'm sure there's a lot of other people who are going to be like, hey, wait a minute. You called out those people, not me. What the heck?
We may get to another episode.
Yeah.
So.
Time will tell. So I just wanted to say there's two guys at work who hear my voice all day long. They don't need to hear me any extra, but they opt to anyway.
Yes.
So a quick shout out thanks to Luke and JJ at work.
Thank you, guys.
Listened to every episode as far as I know.
And your feedback's been great.
Unless they're just lying to me. Yep. I don't know. Hopefully they're not lying, but hopefully they've actually listened.
Can I shout out to my mom?
You can.
Thanks, Mom.
You would. Your mom, your brother, your dad, my parents, siblings as well. I also want to give a quick shout out to, I think within the first day of us signing up on Blue Sky, we got some interaction from the fellas over at the Never Ending Watch List.
Thank you, guys.
From Damon, Alex, and Cameron. Mm-hmm. They gave us, some quick little interactions. And
check out their podcast.
Yeah, check out their podcast. If you want to hear three guys talking about, they are really good at telling you what movies you probably should watch.
Yeah,
and add to your watch list.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to say there's another individual on Blue Sky who's interacted with a lot.
Yes.
Jason Parker.
Is that the coffee guy?
The coffee guy.
Yeah.
He's got a food blog. He's super knowledgeable on movies. I mean, my gosh, this guy's
very
movie
interesting
knowledge
fellow.
is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool guy, super nice, super welcoming. So I want to do just another quick shout out to Seductive Teas. They have messaged with us quite a few times, shared a few little fun movie games that they play. If you want some really cool designs,
the t-shirts are pretty neat.
Their t-shirts are super cool. They're big on supporting the LGBTQIA plus community as well. They're super inclusive, super nice.
Yep.
Go ahead and check them out. But yeah, other than friends and family and everyone else, and I'm sorry to anyone that we've left out.
We'll get you maybe next time.
We don't have a huge listener base yet, but we're building and we will get you in a subsequent episode. We're not charging anybody for it just yet. So get in while it's free. And of course, finally, Leia, with all this thank yous going around, thank all of our listeners, all of them in general,
guys.
but also, Leia, thank you.
Thank you for, doing this with me.
For just hanging out.
Yeah.
And thank you to old guy bartender Happy number 2.
Yeah, happy too. That's my name, Happy too. Don't you forget it. And I'll be here next week too.
No, Happy 2. You will not
I
be
don't
here.
think so.
I think this is your one and only appearance, my friend.
We'll be locking the door behind us.
Yeah, we're gonna give the Craigslist folks a negative review on this one. So anyway, yes, thank you everyone. Goodbye, and we'll see you next week on
The Movie Theater Lobby.
Bye.
Bye.
Beware of what you make fun of, you little asshole. Who? You! Forget about having a party at all tomorrow night, or you'll be sorry.
Hey, lighten up, Hap. Piss on Harry Warden and that damn old legend. We're gonna have ourselves a party.